What's going on, Spurs fans? My name is Tom Petrini, and this is the Big Fundamental Podcast from Kent's 5, the official TV station of the San Antonio Spurs. I am joined by Joe Reinagel and Jeff Garcia, and we're going to get right into it today. Be honest, fellas, not the most fun past few games here, and the Spurs are most certainly feeling the absence of their all-star, I'm going to say it, Dejounte Murray. What do you guys think? I'll start with you, Joe. What do you guys think the Spurs are missing most right now that doesn't show up in the stat sheet, right? Because, he's leading the team with 18 points per game and 9 assists per game and 8 rebounds per game. And he's, really leading the team in the stat sheet, obviously, on both ends of the floor. But what do you think is the less tangible part that the Spurs are missing most from him?
Well, something that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, obviously, is his leadership. Dejounte has really become the leader of this ball club, and I think they really gravitate around him. They follow his lead. He gets people in the right spots, and I just think the team feels a lot more comfortable and a lot more confident when he's on the floor. And I think we've really seen that. And I find it interesting that Dejounte really is not getting the credit he deserves, and maybe it's because of the Spurs record, maybe it's because of all the young players, but this guy is really a good basketball player in every phase of the game. And by that, obviously, you quoted the stats, but I just think his leadership and confidence just spreads out to everybody, and they're missing that a lot.
And with COVID, he's not even on the sideline there because we've seen Thad Young being a great veteran without suiting up really for this team, just sitting there talking to everybody.
Right.
So I wonder how much the Spurs are missing that part. Jeff, I mean,
Yeah.
is this obviously without Dejounte Murray right now, Spurs are struggling. Is this sort of an indication that they'd be lost without him?
Yeah, he is the team's MVP this season. I doesn't take a genius to say this team would be a lot worse record-wise if he wasn't in Spurs colors right now, or he would be out for some sort of injury. The thing is here too, not only do you lose that leadership with DeJounte, that floor general, you're also starting to see just weird lineups going out there. You don't have DeJounte, you don't have Lonnie, you don't have McDermott. Now you just once in a while you don't have Keita Bates-Diop, or he's in and out. So that is going to throw off the rhythm. That's going to throw off the chemistry. What is one thing that you heard this team pound over and over again from beginning of the season till recently? Oh, we got to get our chemistry together. We got to get familiarity with one another. They got away from that kind of buzzwords, but here it is again. When you put out a Joe Wieskamp and a Josh Primo and give them heavy minutes mixed in with a Trey Jones, they're not going to really understand one another. They're not going to be really familiar with one another on the court. So, yeah, you can understand why they're stumbling right now. And it just put it all together, and you got this mess, and the schedule doesn't help either, too, Joe. I mean, how many back-to-backs? I thought the NBA wanted to get away with so many back-to-backs in succession. But here they are, the Spurs, 3 sets of back-to-backs, 5 and 7 games. That's just ridiculous.
Did they say 7 games and 11 nights on the broadcast last night? I heard that, and I just couldn't.
Yeah.
The math wasn't mathing in my head. I'm glad you
Felt
brought
like
up
old school NBA.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's getting a little crazy out there. But I'm glad you brought up Doug and Lonnie. We'll talk about them in a second. But I definitely just want to highlight here where Dejounte is for this team, statistically and what he's producing on the floor. That the next best guy on this team is really not it's a step down, and that's not anybody else's fault. It's just the way the team is constructed this year. He's throwing 62 passes per game. The second highest is Jakob Poeltl at 44. Creating 16 potential assists per game. Second highest is Derrick at 10. 22 assist points per game on this team. That's huge. So he's accounting for 40 points with scoring and assists per game, with all of the other stuff he does on the floor. I personally think he's an all-star this year. As Spurs fans have been great and banging the drum. Hashtag Dejounte Murray, hashtag NBA All-Star. Uh, if the Spurs have an all-star this season, there's no doubt it's him. And I think that if the Spurs can continue to play well when he's in there, which he will be tonight against Boston, we just got word. Um, you know, it's going to be a different looking Spurs team, certainly than the one that we've seen in the last 5 games. I mean,
Mhm.
I said it last night on Twitter, but like DeJounte is the engine of this team, and
Yep.
they're going to struggle to drive down the block without him. Like
Hmm.
that's just how cars work, you know.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of tough to watch. Doug and Lonnie, I mean, those are your first and third highest volume 3-point shot makers on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's an area where this team has really struggled in you know the past couple of seasons, really. Uh, and they remain out in the health and safety protocols. Um, and Keldon Johnson, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Pop was asked last night, uh, what have you seen from Keldon Johnson's play? What do you think's going on? And he just said Keldon's not playing well, and he got up and left the press conference.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's not in these
Yeah.
games. He's not, and I mean, he went 10 of 12 from the floor, 27 points in that first game against Detroit.
Hmm.
Huge,
Mm-hmm.
incredible. He and on that night he was leading the league in season 3-point percentage. Crazy. He's been crazy efficient. Since then, 13 points on 5 of 13, 6 points on 2 of 12, 12 points on 4 of 18, and 6 points on 3 of 13. 4 of
Ouch.
20 from 3.
Yeah.
Not exactly blazing it from there. And for me, it's been the decision making, right? I mean, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but even in the game last night, like on made baskets, on 2 of those 3 made baskets that he had last night, it was like he got the ball, he was wide open at the 3-point arc, and then it was just like a loading wheel. And then he took his next steps very unconfidently. Ball went
Mm-hmm.
in the hole. What's going on there? So is this, I mean, simply the case of a wing finisher who's not much of a creator himself missing his point guard a lot, or is there something bigger going on here?
I think there's something bigger going on here. He obviously he's not playing well, and I think we got to remember that Keldon's still he's a young man, right?
Yep.
He's still a very young man. He's not experienced in the NBA. I mean, he's not. Let's face it. And so when things start to go wrong, that gets in your head. It does, and I think it's really gotten into Keldon's head right now. And I think he's pushing. And I think you mentioned it, Tom. When he gets a wide open look and he doesn't take the shot right away, he's thinking, man, what do I got to do? Is my elbow in the right spot? Are my feet right? I mean, I just think he's thinking when a guy's in a roll and in a rhythm, he's not thinking about any of that. He's just letting it fly. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're seeing from Keldon right now. And I think, if I was a fly on the wall between Pop and Keldon, uh, that's probably what Pop is telling him. Look, man, just let it go. Let it fly.
Yeah.
Don't think about it and just play basketball. And I think Keldon will snap out of this. But I just think again that Spurs fans have to take a look at this team and realize that it is a work in progress. It is a bunch of young,
Mm-hmm.
talented players that are going to go through growing pains. And I think that's what you're seeing with Keldon Johnson right now. And I don't think it'll last long. I really don't. He's
Me
too
neither.
talented a ball player,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think it'll last long. But right now, he's struggling for sure.
Look, all NBA players, whether they're a rookie to a seasoned vet, they're going to have their moments during a season where they're just off. And right now, that's Keldon. Get Jason Tatum. He recently had a bad slump, and it just happens. But it gets highlighted for Keldon because it's a rebuilding season. They want to see if these guys are taking the next step. There was a lot of expectations on KJ to be the man this season, and quite frankly, he's come up a little short this season. I think too, Joe. And to get your thoughts on this is he's dare I say, this is his sophomore wall. You don't
Mhm.
count that bubble season, where he got recalled, midway
Right,
through the
right.
season, So then he has the bubble season, which was just different. But now this is his first real full 82 game season in the NBA. This is the closest he's gotten to it, and he hit a wall. And I think that's just natural for all young guys in the league to experience. I do agree with you, Joe. I think he will snap out of this. His pedigree just shows that he will. I mean, look who coached him in college. I mean, that sums it up right there. Uh, to now he has Popovich. But the one thing I just wish Keldon would do was, if his shot's not falling, just try other ways to help the team. He tends to just default to the I'm going to put my head down and barrel through the lane and see what happens and go for a shot. I would love to see him facilitate a little bit more. Maybe work on a mid-range game, because right now Keldon is just three or rim. That's it. He's three or rim, and that makes it easy for defenses, Tom.
Well, I mean, we're seeing a lot of players trend in that direction, right? And you know, in the beginning of the season, I was excited when he was getting more like mid-range reps, even some post fades and things like that. And it was like, oh, he's trying new things. I think over the course of the season, you have to refine what you do really well and what you're still
Mm-hmm.
working on. And at this point in the season, catch and shoot 3-point shooter.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's in his bag
Yeah.
easy. Um, he's uh, aggressive to the rim. He hasn't been finishing very
Yeah.
well there of late, certainly. Um, but I mean, he's still the second leading scorer on this team. Um, I think that in the absence of Dejounte Murray, he might be not just thinking too much, Joe, which I think you're dead on there. He's definitely overthinking the game, but I think he's also maybe trying to do a little too much.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and for a young player who's still learning like that, obviously you want him to be thinking and learning and growing, but at the same time, you know, if all of a sudden he feels like, okay, our leading scorer is out, I'm the second leading scorer, I need to be that day. Putting some pressure on him, and maybe he's not really making the best reads. Because it does seem to be more of a mental thing to me in his own mind than the defense is figuring him out. Because if all you got in the NBA is, 6'6", 6'7", shredded muscle and 3-point shots and dunks, you'll make a good living. I mean, you can. There is a role for you there. Um, I think what we're kind of pushing up against the limits of where he is right now as a player in his role. Uh, and when he gets beyond those boundaries, it gets a little dicey. It's all part of learning
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
He definitely look, myself, you, Tom, Joe. I mean, we agree with Popovich. Popovich said this season that the one thing that Keldon needs to work on is just have more finesse in his game. Popovich said it, and I think that's
Mhm.
what he lacks right now, just a finesse style to it. He's a bully player. They call him the big body for a reason. So, and he lends to that. But if he could just add a little bit more finesse to his game, I think that'll bode well for him in the future. But let's not forget, everybody listening in, this is a rebuild season. So
Mhm.
when you're seeing KJ struggle this way, that's part of a territory of a rebuild. Is the team gets better, individual players get better, and I do agree with you, Joe. He will get better as the season
Yep.
progresses.
One guy who I think we should talk about who has stepped up a, a significant amount, I'd say, in the absence of Dejounte Murray is Derrick White here. His scoring average is still just under 15 points per game in the last five, uh, but he's kicked his assists up by three per game. He's averaging 8.6 assists per game in this stretch here. And I mean, multiple career highs already. He had a 14 assist game just the other night. So we've definitely seen him take a bigger mantle in terms of the playmaking. Great defense, although he got in trouble last night with the fouls. Still not his best shooting yet. Uh, Jeff, we'll start with you. Where do you see Derek at this point in his journey in the season? Obviously not the best start for him, but are you seeing signs of growth and life and improvement?
I think he's still the Derrick White that we've seen in past couple seasons. Um, he facilitates, which is great. When the departure of DeMar DeRozan happened, via trade, you're wondering, okay, well, who's going to pick up that slack? DeMar was the leading facilitator for San Antonio in the time he was here. So, Derrick White definitely has stepped up in that department. He's still scoring. He's still giving you that defense. He's taking charges left and right. He probably missed two more teeth by the time you're listening to this episode of Big Fundamental. I mean, the guy just nails on that defensive end. The thing is with him, though, is his three shot still tends to be a sore spot when you look at his stats. I'm not too sure, Tom. You probably have the numbers there. I think that either this is currently or maybe second worst 3-point shooting of his career, which doesn't
Yeah,
bode well for him
he's
financially because according to ESPN, their financial breakdown, if Derrick White hits 183 threes this year, he gets a big bonus. He's nowhere near that right
okay.
now. So even that is motivating him to hit the three. So but
Yeah,
overall,
this
I
is
think, yeah, it's one of the
he's a
worst.
career he's a career 34% 3-point shooter.
Hmm.
Career high was almost 37% 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
This year, 29%. He's up at
Yeah.
33% over the past 5 games. Still not
Hmm.
great. Um,
Not great. Yeah.
but this is a guy who we know can at least hit reliably from out there on a pretty high volume. Uh,
Right.
hasn't really done that this year, so it's been a a tough sled for
But
him, I think.
yeah, but for me though, it's just like I don't know. Aside from the three shot, I mean, Joe, you can chime in if you want. I don't know if this is his ceiling. Is this it? If this is the Derek White we're going to get this year, next year, until whenever his career is over in San Antonio?
That very well could be. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's been waiting for Derek White to break out and do something, right? And he shows flashes, but consistency
Right.
has been the issue.
Yeah.
I think that's been the
Hmm.
thing. And so maybe injuries have caused that, and that's kind of derailed things. But I'd still bet on Derek White. I'd still give him some time to see if
Hmm.
that comes. But it very well could be. He came in very highly. Everybody was high on this guy, thinking he was going to be the answer and he was going to be the guy. But maybe he's just not the guy. Maybe he's just a piece in the puzzle, and he's not the guy that we all thought he might be.
I think he's in his fifth
I
year
think,
already. This is his fifth year.
yeah,
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we already have a big sample size already here, guys, and this could be Derek White.
It
and
could
I
be,
mean
but keep in mind, injuries have played a part in this whole thing.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, Tom.
Right.
all good. Yeah, no, this is his age 27 season. Remember, because he was
Yeah.
a
Oh,
senior
yeah,
when
he
they
was a four
drafted
year.
him.
Yeah, he was a 4 year
Um,
guy. Yeah.
so it's definitely. I mean, it's time for Derek White to show us we're approaching his athletic prime here and
Hmm.
Hmm.
the meat of his NBA career. Um, I'm interested to see what he'll be able to do if he's able to just stay healthy. Um, but I think in terms of the consistency, he's been consistently who he is. It's just the consistent next level that he's trying to reach. Um, because for some guys on the team like Lonnie, it's consistency period that
Yeah.
is the thing that needs work. Um, and one of the things that you get when you get a 4-year player is somebody who's got the experience, who's a little more ready made, who has a really high feel for the game. Um, and I don't think there's any denying that uh, who he is as a player pairs really well in the backcourt with Dejounte Murray. Um, obviously you want him hitting more of that outside shot. I don't know how many Spurs fans and thinkers had Dejounte Murray being the more accurate shooter at this point in the season of the
Yeah.
two. Um, but I think there's again still room to learn and grow. And speaking of which, we would be remiss if we didn't at the end here talk about Becky Hammon, Coach Becky Hammon,
Oh,
WNBA
yes.
legend Becky Hammon, finally getting a head coaching job with a team that she played for, formerly the Stars here in San Antonio, now the Las Vegas
Mhm.
Aces. Um, I I know you talked about her what she said in the show there, Joe. One thing that really stuck out to me that she said, a quote that like will ring in my ears for a long time. The biggest barriers that I overcame were in my own mind. That was really powerful to me. But she also talked about some of the barriers that she faced uh, as a uh, potential. Talked about how what she heard was that uh, she'd only been in San Antonio and she'd never been a head coach before. Uh, the Greg Popovich coaching tree, I would say, indicates that plenty of people who have only been in San Antonio and only been assistant coaches wind up with NBA coaching jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely sort of a window into what happened there with some of those job opportunities. Um, definitely just want to get your guys' thoughts on what this means for Becky and the W, but also what it means for the Spurs. Joe, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think it's huge for the WNBA to have a Becky Hammon back. And she's going to represent that league. She's going to elevate that league. And so I think it's great for the WNBA. What I'm sad about, Tom and Jeff, is the fact that it seems to me, and this is just my opinion, but that the NBA, for whatever reason, or NBA teams, or general managers, or maybe even players for that matter, just don't seem to be ready for a female head coach. And I
Right.
think that became pretty obvious. And the reason I say that is you've got a lot of first time head coaches. Chauncey Billups comes to mind. Steve Nash comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, that excuse really it doesn't wash with me that you've never been a head coach and you've only been in San Antonio. Ime Udoka is another one that comes to mind who was in San Antonio. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so it really leads me to believe that there is some sort of a bias perhaps against that first one. And I think it's going to take that first one to open the door for others as we move forward. Everybody thought it was going to be Becky Hammon, and it still may be. I mean, let's face it. Maybe she goes to Vegas and wins a championship or two there and opens some people's eyes in the NBA, and she comes back. But I think there is, whether it's on purpose or just in the back of people's minds, I think there is that folks are just a little unwilling to roll the dice and be the first to hire the first female head coach.
Yeah. Yeah, as much as it is a great honor, a good milestone for Becky to take her talents to the coaching sidelines of the WNBA. I think, if she had stuck around in the NBA, I wouldn't mind seeing her maybe take a job in the G League. I mean, I think that would have been good as well. Another good alternative. Hey, go cut your teeth in the G League. A path that it works well for players and also works well for Spurs coaches. Look at Taylor Jenkins out of Memphis. Look at Quinn Snyder out in Utah. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is a path I think I wish was open. I wish she maybe pursued a little bit, but nevertheless, yeah. I mean, WNBA, they have a coaching face of the league now. Tickets are going to sell in Vegas for that, and that Las Vegas Aces team is going to be really fun to watch when they
Yeah.
get their season going. All in all, good move for Becky. It was not going to happen in the NBA, at least not right now. The door is not shut on a return. Who knows? Maybe whenever Pop does decide to call it a career, and I don't know how long her contract is in Las Vegas. If it is, just maybe finagle a way out. Who knows? But if Bryn Forbes can go win a title with the Bucks, Becky can go cut her teeth with the Vegas Aces and come on back to San Antonio. All in all, it just beefs up her resume, though. If and when the future does present an opportunity in the NBA, she has that mark on her resume to say, like, oh, and by the way, Team X, NBA team. I have head coaching experience at a professional level. Check it out. And look what I done. So it's a good
Yeah.
move for her. It's a good move for San Antonio. But you just got to wonder, what does this mean for Pop? How much longer is he going to stick around? Because if it was her, if she was the heir apparent, then maybe they could have told her that, yeah, you're up, but maybe they just don't know where Pop is leaning towards right now.
She was the most obvious heir apparent. The only heir
Yeah.
apparent, in my opinion,
Well, I thought the
that
same thing with
you
Coach
could directly point to.
Budenholzer. I thought the same thing with
Yeah.
with Tori Messina. That didn't happen. So I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not too shocked this happened. That like who we think would take over doesn't happen. It happened again. This is the third time. Budenholzer, Messina, Brett Brown, and now Hammond.
Why would
And
Pop want to leave though? I mean, seriously, what
Yeah.
Pop still is obviously at the top of his game. I think he's having a good time with these young players that he's brought in. He's actually coaching these guys now again, and I think
Mm-hmm.
he's enjoying that. I don't see Popovich leaving anytime soon, honestly. I mean, what else is he going to do at this point in time? And again, if he was ill, if he had some
Yeah.
issues, I mean, I think he's still at the top of his game, and I think he wants to try and build another winner here in San Antonio before he calls it a day. And I just don't see him hanging it up like everybody else, after this year or after next year. I think he sticks around several more years.
all right. Well, I mean, it would be surprising to a lot of people, but I don't think to somebody who watched his entire career like you, Joe. One last thing on Becky. Um, I think that it's really important. One of her most important messages was that um, basketball is all the same, and she wanted to be a head basketball coach. And she had no intentions of leaving the NBA, but the Vegas Aces gave her not just a record-setting deal, not just 5 years and making her the highest paid coach in the history of the league, but um, they put her in a situation to be the head coach and GM of a team,
Mm. Yep.
and she made it very clear. I don't see this as a step back for me. This is a step forward. This is not a
Mm-hmm.
downgrade.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I
and
agree.
I think a lot of people are gonna have silly things to say about, like, you know how, oh, it's evidence that she wasn't good enough to make it at the NBA level, or you know this is a step down, blah blah blah. I'm sure all of those people will be men, and that's just how it is. And unfortunately, that's still kind of something that women, not just in coaching but in sports in general, have to deal with. So proud of Becky Hammon. So happy for her. We're gonna miss her dearly here. Most of what I
Absolutely.
saw from San Antonio Spurs fans was, man, I'm sad that she's not going to be the next coach
Yep.
here.
Yeah. Bittersweet.
And
Yeah.
I think that's just the overwhelming feeling here in San Antonio, um, because everybody here has such deep respect for her, not just as a trailblazer in the sport,
Mm-hmm.
but as a coach.
I know you're
So
wrapping this
with
up,
that,
Tom,
I'm
but
yeah.
I know you're wrapping this up, Tom, but just really quick, I was at a recent Spurs game to tell you how much you connect with the fans. Watching the Spurs warm up, Becky comes out from the tunnel, she grabs a basketball, she starts warming up herself, and there's some fans there that are, hey Becky, hey, how's it going? We love you and everything. She stops in front of the fan seats, looks over there, starts talking with them. Then I hear him, the guy starts drinking his beer, and he starts, oh yeah, and he's chatting with her. She looks at the beer, she says, oh man, I can go for one of those right now. So she really connects with the fan base, and it's just good to see that.
Just a kind, genuine, wonderful person
No
Yeah,
who
question.
has spent a lot of
yeah.
time here in San Antonio as a home. So we're all gonna miss you here, Becky.
Yep.
But she is staying with the Spurs through the remainder of the
Mm-hmm.
season. So we'll be imparting more wisdom and more wishes for alcoholic beverages onto fans and players alike, I'm sure. No, we love you, Becky. Thank you so much for always being generous with your time. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Big Fun Pod. We know you guys are busy, Joe and Jeff. Thank you so much for joining us today. You can see underneath us right here where you can follow us on the tweeters. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, guys, and go Spurs, go.
See ya.